Welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast with Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Direct, soulful, comedic, advice for female chiropractors' most stagnating questions. Let's talk business, marriage and relationships, momming, and self-development. Here's your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick.
Okay, so here we go. Welcome to the first episode of She Slays the Day podcast. You guys, I was so nervous. I spent way too much time legitimately thinking about what are the first words out of my mouth. They were, so here we go, just in case you already forgot. I had to consult. I went through all these weird, I don't know, borderline yelping noises. And I'm like, no, my sound guy's going to be mad about that. And I'm going to scare the people away. So here we go. Welcome. Is this going to suck? So Rachel Hollis somewhere says something about how you know what? Nobody goes back and listens to the first one anyways. So, and they all suck. So it's probably going to suck. But it'll get better. I'll get better at this, maybe, right? I don't know. Here's the deal. I'll very likely get better. And I promise you this, if I don't think it's going to happen, I'll tell you. So around episode 6, 7, 8, if I think I've peaked, I'll just go ahead and tell you. And if I'm you know what, if you're waiting for this to get much better than this, you should just unsubscribe. So, this is great. I'm less than 2 minutes in and I've already told people to just go ahead and unsubscribe. This is good. This is real good. So for those of you that didn't listen to our little mini intro that we released last week, here's generally the format of the show. It's a write-in show. So these are real people, female chiropractors writing in questions to us. And, we'll keep their information private. Sometimes we'll use their real first names. Sometimes out of their respect, we may change it. So you really have no way of knowing if this is a real person or not. You just have to trust me. So we're going to start with today's topic, which was another thing that we put a huge amount of thought into because it's the first one. And it is a huge one because of the emotional intensity with it. It is around maternity leave. This is a big deal for female chiropractors. And birth, this person who wrote in, it's an amazing story, and I'm excited to jump in and help her. So before we start, though, what we're going to do, this whole thing is probably going to be a little messy, but we're going to start with a 30-second prayer. I'm going to do this on every podcast. It may be in the beginning, or if I completely forget, I may be oh shit, you guys, we forgot to pray. Hold on. I'm going to keep it to 30 seconds because most podcast players, however you're listening to this, probably have a fast forward 30-second thing that you normally use to fast forward through the who's sponsoring this episode. So if you're not super Christian, that's cool. Go ahead and skip forward. I don't care. But it's my damn podcast and I want to do it. So, dear God, holy crap. I hope that this is actually what you intended for this because here I go. Like I said, if I'm going to suck, make it suck real fast so I don't waste years on this. Today's topic, so sensitive. Please be with all of the women who are listening, who this touches their heart, help them, send something to me to help them get whatever they need out of this. So many women just carry their births like it's a representation of them and just help me be a part of helping them heal through you. So, amen. So let's read our first question. So it comes from Jenna. So Jenna says, Dear Lauryn. Actually, that's not true. Okay, so here's the deal. It is from Jenna, but nobody who sent in questions starts it with Dear Lauryn, and I'm really hoping that eventually they start, but I added the Dear Lauryn part because, again, that's how I want it to start. So, Dear Lauryn, for the last 7 years, I've run my own cash-based family wellness and prenatal and pediatric chiropractic clinic. So already, I love her. I'm a prenatal and pediatric clinic person. I'm a solo provider, now seeing about 130 a week. I'm almost 12 weeks pregnant with my second child. However, this is my 5th pregnancy. Motherhood and miscarriage has definitely left an impact on my life and practice. While those lessons were some of my darkest days, and I pray they're behind me now, I learned a lot about how to support women through the beautiful and also heartbreaking journey of becoming a mother. During my first pregnancy, all was fine. We were collecting $27,000 a month at the time. I was stepping away. I had one assistant at the time. I practiced up until 37 weeks and only stopped because adjusting was causing contractions all day. Our birth went from a typical home birth to an imminent C-section due to her attempting to come out ear first. It was heartbreaking, and my baby was born with substantial birth trauma. While I was away, my local male coverage doc took my collections to $3,000 a month. I know he was trying to help, but it was horrible. He also moved a few of my patients over to his practice. Having pushed for 3 hours, then having a C-section, I could hardly move. The idea of adjusting was unbearable, because unless I was medicated, I was holding a 7-pound newborn baby, and that was impossible. I went back to work because I was either going to have to close the doors or get back to work. I couldn't afford my overhead with the way he left my clinic and had to rely on my husband's income to float us. We had put back money, but with the major decline in collections, we had to funnel that money into all the things instead of just payroll. When I returned, I wasn't 100%. At best, I was 50%. So the clinic slowly but surely began to rebuild. I let go of my CA and realized after her departure that she had stolen from me from the time I went on maternity leave to the time I let her go. We are a very healthy, thriving business again, and I can honestly say practice on this side of that struggle is way better than the one I had before I had my daughter. Being pregnant again and knowing all the things I had to walk through to get here, I want to do this better this time. I need a structure in place to prevent the shit show that occurred last time. I'm interested in expanding to have an associate, so maternity leave isn't such a shock to my clinic, but finding the right fit is a whole other can of worms. Oh my gosh, can everybody who's listening just like do a little like mental applaud to her vulnerability? Like birth is so personal, and like when we look at practice, it's just, it's a lot to all take in. So I'm going to preface this. I will have to preface things a lot. Like I am a pretty offensive, direct person who contains a little bit of empathy. So I'm kind of a birth asshole in the sense that like I'm the one that it's really easy to hate because I had 2 super easy pregnancies and births. So I'm the one who like, yep, things went according to plan. I was able to like control everything and it didn't shake my world. So I'm going to take that into account, but give me grace. I'm going to try and give the best feedback and information I can with that, but I can't sympathize. But I'm going to try and empathize here. So really, when I look at this question, there's 2 parts to it. So there's like prepping physically and emotionally for this. And then there's also prepping the clinic. And then there's a third part. Okay, shit, there's more than 2 parts. And then there's like, what does returning look like? So we're going to tackle all of it in my little ADD world. So let's start with emotional. Like, I just want to like pray over you. Oh, no, that's weird. I'm not praying over you. I hope, there we go. That's a better, less weird thing to do. My hope is that any emotional baggage that you're still holding on to from that previous birth, you do the work to let go of before the second birth happens. Because I remember way back when it was like 10 years ago, I was doing Jeannie Ohm's ICPA, her Webster certification class. And for those of you that have done Jeannie's class, you know this moment where she has just gotten done showing like this C-section and everyone's like trying to look away and it's like terrible. And there's like all this shame around like people who have an elective C-section and I remember this girl raising her hand and she stood up and she was a chiropractor and she had tears just pouring down her face. I don't remember her question because she like immediately started rolling into her story. And it's very similar, like wanted this birth to be gorgeous and perfect, and it wasn't. It was terrible, and it was ugly, and it was emergency C-section and all of the stuff that comes with that, all the healing. And it was over 10 years ago that she had experienced this. And you guys, it was like she had gone through this trauma a week ago. Like she was still holding on to it. And it's really that shame that what other profession, I seriously, I can't think of another profession that puts the amount of burden on us. It's like we as female chiropractors think that our birth represents how effective chiropractic is or not. Like we realize that sounds so asinine, right? That like my birth not going to plan is not a billboard for all of my future patients, my prenatal patients, that chiropractic does not work. That is like, those things are not linked. Life happens, and yet we as female chiropractors, we think that we're supposed to be like Mother Nature, and that if we have this perfect birth, it's somehow going to like be this great marketing thing that we can use, down the road. And just not even marketing, just like we won't be embarrassed telling other chiropractors too of like, oh, mine didn't go well. I must be a bad chiropractor because my birth didn't go well. Like it's really stupid. So really we got to deal with that emotional stuff. I don't know. You seem real good. You didn't indicate that you are, but like only you know. And anybody who's listening, if your birth didn't go well, like only you know whether you've actually done the work to not make that baggage you're carrying through you. So then we have to deal with the physical things. And I could do a whole podcast on this. I'm not going to. Like, Google that shit. There's so many like great like birth fit resources out there to prep your body. Obviously staying active. I know you, so like I'm sure you're staying active. Two things that were really recommended to me from some very experienced birthing chiropractors is to limit your side posture, doing side posture on people. What they said is that it kind of puts torque into your diaphragm, and it was recommended to me to get diaphragm work by a craniosacral therapist. I don't know if it worked or not. Anecdotally, I got it and my births went fine. So I don't know. Think about your diaphragm. Look into your diaphragm. That is what I have for as far as like physical prep in your body. Most of what we're going to dig into is how to prepare your clinic. And that's really what your question is at. So you said you're at 130 a week. You're looking at bringing on an associate. Again, that's a whole nother, like, are you ready to be at that level? Like, again, only you know. In my opinion, bringing on an associate at 130 a week is going to put you in a weird financial situation. And by weird financial situation, I mean you're not going to have a lot of money. So you're going to have a lot of freedom. But I will also tell you from experience that you probably don't have time at this point to bring on a great associate and get them so comfortable with your clinic that your maternity leave wouldn't like affect your numbers at all. Really, even if you find a really great associate, it's going to take somewhere between 6 months to a year for your clinic to fully accept them. It's up to you. Some people get an associate at 130. Some people wait until they're over 200. Some people wait longer. Again, whole different podcast. But you kind of asked in a previous thing to this of like, should I keep going knowing I'm going on maternity leave? Should I keep like marketing and going hardcore? 12 weeks into your pregnancy, yeah. I wouldn't stress about it. Like in your mind, you're right. You're at a nice, stable spot where I don't think you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't get to this point, this is going to be dangerous. But obviously the more you can grow the clinic, the better. Just keep in mind, you're at a good enough place. Like, don't let it emotionally beat you up. You're pregnant. You're a chiropractor. You know the importance of a healthy neurology. Okay. So what can you do to prepare your clinic? So you have a CA, really thinking about your systems and procedures, like scripting the shit out of that. They should be so good by the time you leave. Like, they're trained. They need to be really, really running the show well. You said that your previous CA was stealing from you. So I don't know how to make these ones not steal from you. Like, that sucks. That was kind of like once, as if your collections dropping that much wasn't terrible. It was as if your birth going horrible wasn't like bad enough. You got crapped on again by your CA stealing from you. Like, you poor thing. So I don't know. I'm a very direct person. And so anytime that I have an opportunity to kind of let my CAs know that I would sue the shit out of them and take them to jail if they ever stole from me, like, in a nice way, I just drop that in. Just, once every 6 months, I make a comment like, ha ha ha, I would take that person to jail if they stole from me. Anyway, that's probably not the most empathetic, loving Jesus advice, but just tell them not to steal from you. So getting that CA really, really well-trained and script, like going through like if this, then that, getting your patients and them being there is going to be so helpful because your patients are going to recognize a face. They're going to feel really comfortable with that person. So another thing that I would recommend doing is not having your covering doc there for all total of the hours that you're there now. So like if you're open 36 adjusting hours a week, at 1:30, really you could probably get away with like 3 6-hour shifts or 3 times 6 is 18. Oh gosh. So 4 4-hour shifts, but like really you do not need to have this vast amount of hours there. But what I would do is start doing that now. So that's going to work great just physically for your body. So you're not on your feet 8 to 5 all day long as you're in your 3rd trimester. It's going to also work great because it's going to save you money with this maternity doc. It's also going to work great because then when you do come back, whenever you come back, and we'll get to that point, you don't have to come back to your normal hours. You just come back to the same hours your patients have been used to. But yeah, you just kind of start like herding them like little sheep into like, I know, Nancy, I know you love Tuesdays at 8 a.m., but how would you feel about Mondays at 8 a.m.? Or, you just start like hurting them there. So that way, when you have that maternity doc and they're covering for you those exact hours that you've trained them, it's just one less hurdle of like, yeah, Nancy, I know you were always with Dr. Jenna on Tuesdays at 8, but this doc is not here on Tuesdays at 8. Nancy's just going to be like, well, I'll just wait until Jenna comes back for my Tuesday at 8. So you start like just moving them there. Going to get you off your feet. As far as that recovering doc, so female chiropractor, like a vagina is gonna be, they're just, it's gonna be like a better version of you than a male. You had a male the first time. If you can get a female, that does matter. But I would say their style of adjusting, matching yours is most important. So if you can find a female that has a matching style, that is the best. So then you want to, once you've like arranged this contract, and we'll get a little bit more to like the contract that you have with that maternity doc, you want to talk them up so much to your patients. So now this worked for me because I'm in teeny tiny town, Wisconsin. So my maternity doc was coming from across the state. So literally Jesus, he could have been Jesus and come and been amazing. My patients wouldn't have switched to him. So that really worked in my favor, having a maternity doc coming from far away because he wasn't going to be stealing patients. That wasn't happening. So I like that as an option for you if you can. But talk them up, put their picture at the front desk, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Dr. Gina, who's covering for me. Oh, I can't even believe I got her. She's like the gold standard for relief docs in this area. You're going to love her. Like, thank goodness she doesn't practice around here because you might want to switch to her. You talk them up so much. It's going to help your patients a little bit. Like, it's not going to fully help them not be nervous, but it will help a little bit. So then another thing you want to do to prep the clinic is you want your CAs to schedule. So as you get closer to the end where you're going to be like cutting back on your maternity leave or going on your maternity leave, have your CAs schedule through until you're coming back. So for instance, if it's November and you're due to give birth sometime in December, and your plan is that you're going to come back March 1st, in November's appointment, while you're still in the clinic, have your CA schedule that patient through to March. And, you have that CA scripted to say, like, you know what, Dr. Gina isn't going to really know what your normal care plan is or your wellness or your maintenance plan. So what we're going to do, just so we don't have to bother Dr. Jenna at home, is we're going to schedule you until Dr. Jenna is planning on coming back. She may come back earlier than that, but like this way, those appointments are taken care of. And it's not really offered as an option. It's just, this is what we're doing, just so you know. That, again, can the patient cancel? Of course they can, but it's one less hurdle of like them deciding they don't want to call and schedule another appointment. Okay, another thing to prep the clinic is if you're not using some kind of text review system, implement it ASAP. So we use something called Review Wave. There's a bunch of them out there. I'm not endorsing Review Wave. They work fine for us. There might be a better one. I don't know. But how it works for us is every 60 or 90 days. I think we have it set for 90 days, but you can have it set for every 30 days, every 60. The patient just gets a text saying like, how was today? They just have to push a star, 0 stars to 5 stars. They can comment, they can, do all this. Anything that is less than 5 stars will come to you. Well, actually you'll get the 5-star ones too, but like they don't get to post it to Google. Now, if they rate you 5 stars, then it gives them the option of like, would you like to share this on Facebook or Google? But anything less than that, it doesn't give them that option. So implementing that now, because that's technology and it's a whole new procedural system. But what's going to happen is you don't go from 27,000 to 3,000 without some like major, going down in the clinic. So what's going to happen now, granted, is this going to be kind of stressful for you on clinic or, being home on a maternity leave? Yeah. But if you start getting 2-star review, 2-star review, 2-star review, week 2 or 3 of your maternity doc being there, you do want to know that. So what would end up happening is maybe they'll write something and you can address it with your CA of like, hey, this is what we're getting reviews back. I need you to do this. Maybe you need to talk to the maternity doc in a nice way of like, hey, a lot of our patients are saying you're just a faster adjuster than I am. There's not as much muscle work. Would you mind? Remember we talked about how I do a lot of muscle work, whatever. But that way you can nip that in the butt as soon as possible. You really just got to put yourself in the shoes of your patients and what are they afraid of? What are they thinking? And they're thinking, oh, it's, I'll just wait until she's back from maternity leave. There's no harm in that. So what I did is I did a lot of like table talk. I was like, all right, Betsy, you notice all my fake patient names are like real old people? I don't even like old people. Our patient, we have like 2% Medicare. Anyways, let's see, what's a younger name? Karen, damn it, these are all old. All right, anyway, so I'd be like, okay, Betsy, so let's imagine I'm like 36 weeks pregnant and Betsy comes in every other week. And I'm like, all right, Betsy, so more than likely I'm still going to be here at your next appointment. We're going to have you scheduled out until I'm planned to be back. That's going to be easier for the front desk and for you and for Dr. Gina coming in. And I just... Here's the thing I don't want to happen, Betsy, because, I don't want you to think that if you just skip your appointments that you're going to be better off. Like, because what's going to happen is I'm going to come back, you're going to be a mess, and we're going to have to see you like 3 times a week for a month, just to get you back to the same status. So you're only going to see Dr. Gina like 3 times. Like, I've already told her all about you. She's got your file. Like, it's going to be great. So just keep on your maintenance so you're not a wreck when I come back. Do me a favor, right? Like, laugh about it type thing. But really think through, like, what are the things that your patients think they can get away with? What are the things that they're afraid of? What, they're afraid of the doctor being weird, the doctor hurting them, the doctor, like all of that. So you're assuring them, like, I sat down and talked specifically with you. If you have the capability of having the doc come shadow you for a day and like getting as many people on that day as possible, that was a big thing that I did. for both of my maternity leaves where, we scheduled as many people on the day that he was going to be there. Yeah, I had a guy for my second one. I'll tell you, oh my gosh, you guys. So I haven't told you about my maternity leaves, my docs. Damn. So the first one, it was a woman and she was so nice. But what I started hearing, we did not have the text system going at this point, but what I started hearing about 3 weeks into my maternity leave is that she did like some credit card swiping maneuver. For those of you that don't know what I mean by credit card swiping, credit carding someone is when you take your hand and you swipe it through their butt crack like a credit card. No, I'm sorry. Again, we are open here at She Slays the Day to all techniques. No offense to that technique at all. I don't know what technique that is, but it wasn't my technique. And when I talked to her initially about, hey, this is how I adjust, she was like, yeah, I totally adjust the same way. She never mentioned anything about a credit card. And I would have then said like, oh, that's cool. I don't think my patients will be used to it. And you're going to be here for such a short time. I just don't think it's worth even, No, I was not told that. So that was the first one. And the clinic, I was gone for 6 weeks. And that was the plan, to be gone for 6 weeks. And then we arranged, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but, we had arranged for my husband to take some paternity leave and then my sister to nanny. So our kid didn't go to daycare until she was 12 weeks old, but I only took 6 weeks. And then I didn't bring her in the clinic. Again, like that wasn't my style. We're totally jumping ahead here. But, so that's what happened. And the clinic went down 40%. In 6 short weeks, we dropped 40% of collections. It did come back. Like, I wouldn't say it came back the week that I came back. But, that's scary. That's really scary to think about, your first baby isn't really like your first baby, right? Because your clinic, if you started a clinic before you had your first child, like seeing your clinic kind of dying is also motivation to kind of get your rear in gear and get back. So the second maternity leave that I took, I had a guy. I kind of was short for options, and he seemed really nice. I was pretty sure that he was gay, which I liked. I totally liked. He was like, I don't know, he didn't admit it, but he kept talking about like his best friend and about like how he almost fainted at a Celine Dion concert. And so it was this thing where me and the front desk are just like, okay, like, but he's super like manly bear, like North Woods. And I'm like, all right, whatever, this is going to go great. I like this guy. And he was a very physical adjuster. I'm a physical adjuster, so it worked well, but still, I was gone for 5 weeks with my second one, and the numbers still tanked 40 to 50%. I would love to tell you that like there's this solution where your numbers aren't going to go down, but it's really not realistic. What you want to do is you want to prep for the numbers to go down as least as possible. And if they don't go down, then I don't know, I would just add some weeks to your maternity. If you're planning on only taking 8 weeks and your numbers haven't dropped at all, I would take another 3 or 4 for sure. Like shit, why wouldn't you? If if you can be on, I almost said vacation. If you can be on vacation, we call paternity leave, for 12 weeks and your clinic doesn't drop at all, take every single week you can. I don't know, take a year. Do what the Canadians do. Take a year. So anyways, what was I talking about? I don't remember. Okay. So, I just talked about my maternity leaves. I injected them at a really well-organized time of the show. So we've talked about how to physically prepare your body, how to emotionally prepare your mind for this coming up, getting rid of that baggage, and how to prepare the clinic for this upcoming departure of yourself. So then there's returning to work. And this is a whole bag of worms in itself. What I should have done is I should have asked like what you were thinking about wanting to, but I didn't because of your first pregnancy. I think you kind of know. It's like, well, it depends. Did birth go ideal or did it go not ideal? So let's start with if birth goes ideal. So VBAC and you go, you're feeling really strong emotionally and physically. Baby is healthy, nursing like a trooper, let's talk about Lauryn's magical pumping technique. I only say that because it's the opposite of what most of our lactation consultants around here advise, and I don't get it. I don't, like, just from a logical standpoint, I don't get it. Okay, so what a lot of women, at least in my area, are told is that you shouldn't really pump for multiple weeks when your milk comes in because, you know, it's going to confuse things. I don't really know. I don't know why they tell them. I don't pay attention because I think the opinion is stupid, so I stop listening when they explain why it's a good idea to not pump right away. So here's what I recommend. In the beginning, once your milk comes in, your body is looking to the baby, this teeny tiny baby, to tell it how much milk do you need on a daily basis. So this teeny tiny baby only eats like a couple tablespoons at a time in the beginning. Well, I don't know for any of you that have had your milk come in before, like you got way more than 2 tablespoons in those big knockers in the beginning, right? You're like, holy cow, it hurts so bad. And so what I did is, you know, they're so big, like you can't even get a latch because you're just like, ah. So you feed the baby from one boob. Baby's all good, full, okay, great. Somebody burp this thing. And then you pump both boobs, okay? So even the one that the baby just ate from, you're gonna pump both. Now, milk can sit out for a couple hours. So people are like, oh, but what if I drain my boobs and then like 30 minutes later, the baby's hungry again? Well, then you have, you know, don't put it in the refrigerator right away. Like then you have fresh milk, just give it a bottle. Or, you know, honestly, 30 minutes later, you probably have more milk in the containers, anyways. So then, you know, you wait like kind of an hour. And then by then, if baby wants to eat again, you've got milk in your boobs again. And you're going to put that milk that you pumped directly into the freezer. Do not put it in the fridge. Milk will always get used that's in the fridge. It just is this like magical thing that's like, it never makes it to the freezer. So you're going to put that stuff in a bag, put it in the freezer, date it. And so then the next time the baby wants to eat, feed from the other boob. Okay, somebody burp this thing, and then you're going to pump both boobs again. And you are going to have this like nice stockpile of breast milk. So whenever you're ready to go back to work, like I see so many women just kind of chained to their breast pump and like how much milk they're producing and this and that because they weren't pumping enough in the beginning. So what happens is if you don't pump in the beginning when you've got like milk that's dripping, like literally pouring out of your nipples, right? Your body is going to go, oh, you don't need all this milk? Well, here, I'll stop making so much. And they say like, oh, your body will like meet, you know, as the baby wants more milk, your body will make more milk. Okay, maybe some of you out there who were like milk machines that worked for, it did not work for me. Like my body just steadily declined over a year type thing. So anyway, so that is Lauryn's magical pumping technique. It is not copywritten or trademarked, so somebody can go make lots of money on it. Okay, so ideally, you know, you're going to return with your plan. I'm sure you have an ideal plan. We don't need to spend a lot of time talking about your ideal plan. You know, whether it's you're going to come back to 5 weeks and you're going to baby wear, or you're going to take 12 weeks and you're going to have a maternity leave and like everything's going to be great. Cool. Let's talk about the not ideal because that is really where I'm sure you hold a lot of fear around. So you can't prep for it. You know this. That's why it's so scary. But there are some things that you can kind of do. So you want to really secure your safety nets. And safety nets in this scenario is money, money, money. So live small. Live as small as you can. If you are like aggressively paying off your loans. Oh, by the way, my lawyer said I should tell you I am not a financial advisor. This is just my opinion. Welcome to She Slays the Day. I have lots of opinions and most of them are just based on my opinion. Anyways, so live small, save as much money as you can. Obviously, if you can have 3 to 6 months of overhead saved, that's ideal. So if you're, like I started to say, if you're overpaying on your student loans to try and like get down that principal, maybe now's not that time. Like put that money away in savings so you have it at your disposal if you need to. Figure out, where you can float money, as you get closer. Maybe you pay down your credit card every month. Maybe, you don't do that. Maybe you pay a portion of it if you don't have enough savings as you're getting into that third trimester. But really, you want to have that nest egg, that financial nest egg, because the money is going to be the only thing that really forces you to lay people off and close your doors. So making sure that is not an issue is going to be one of the biggest things. So then I recommend talking contingency plans with your relief doc. If you're planning on coming back at 6 weeks, but you have a C-section, have these conversations with your maternity doc of like, okay, so what happened? Are you available for this extra period? Like, figure out those things with him or her ahead of time. If I want to come back early, how does that work with a contract? Can I like buy you out, type of thing. I really recommend making sure that the contract with your maternity doc is determined based on the numbers of the clinic. Because if they're just getting a paycheck, whether they're seeing, 30 people a day, 50 people a day, 100 people a day, or 5 people a day, there's really not much mental incentive for them to like do the boosts and do your care plans, things like that. Okay, so another thing that you are going to want to make sure you do, and this is whether the birth is ideal, not ideal, but you need to clarify your care plans with whoever is your maternity relief doc. What I don't care is if she averages 6 visits and she can bring the living back from the dead. I don't care. What I care about is what is your clinic's average, and that's what she needs to do because she works for you. So if you have a 24-visit care plan as your average recommended care plan for a new patient, you need to tell the relief doctor that is what you expect she gives out to new patients on average. That doesn't, obviously she's a doctor. She can use her head, but like she should average that. And if she's uncomfortable with that, you're gonna have to coach her and kind of give her that conversation that like whether she's comfortable or not, she needs to do that. She works for you. Also with your CA, you let her know exactly what you need her to do, and she needs to do that. See, this is hard for us as women. And when we like really pull back the veil on like, well, duh, that's common sense. Well, why isn't it happening? Is because we as women are so damn nice. For instance, I wouldn't even call myself a super nice person. But last week I ordered, it was like the first spring day up here in Wisconsin. It's been crazy cold forever and ever and ever. It was like really warm out and I'm like, oh man, I want an iced latte so bad. So I go, I order it, great. And then what do they serve me? A hot latte. And I know I said iced. And so I kind of was like, oh, this was supposed to be iced. And the barista looked at me like, oh, well, I can change it for you if you want. And instead of being like, yes, please, I said like, no, that's okay. And I'm like walking away thinking like, why did I do that? I don't want this damn hot latte. And okay, like this is a stupid example, kind of, but this is what we do all day long. And the latte doesn't matter. It did not matter, but guess what does matter? Your practice. Your practice matters. And so we have to start taking these bolder steps in kind ways. There are kind ways to tell people, this is how it needs to be done. This is what I want. I am paying you, and therefore this is what you will do. I don't care that that's your opinion. Again, nicer. I'm sure you'll be a lot nicer, but like that's not beating around the bush. Like this is what needs to happen is you need to figure out what do you need your CA to do on a daily basis to keep, what do you need her to say? How does she need to respond to negative reviews? How do you want her to describe the maternity doc? How do you want her to tell your patients how your maternity leave is going? It doesn't matter what she feels like doing. Same thing for your maternity relief doc. I don't care if you think that lavender oil is going to be the end all be all to my patient's migraines. I don't sell lavender oil, and therefore I don't want you doing it. And that is what is hard, is we're just so like, oh, okay, whatever. Like we think they're doing us a favor. And so we feel bad telling them exactly what we want, but they're not doing you a favor. You are paying a premium most of the time for these maternity relief docs to come in. And so you have to remove that they're doing you a favor, because that's how they steal patients from you, is the mindset of like, ooh, I just don't want to offend him, that I don't really love that that's how he's doing it. So, and this kind of continues with your patients. Now, obviously, your patients are paying you, so it's not quite as much of like a you will do what I say, but there will never be another time that your patients, assuming you have like nice, normal human beings in your practice, there will never be another time that your patients are more wanting to help you and looking to say like, how can we help you through this transition? So, if you want to ask your patients to schedule for the next 6 months, because it is going to give you that peace of mind while you're home, that you can just be there and present with your baby and not worrying that they're getting the care they're going to need. They are so much more going to be willing to go along with that during this time. So tell your patients what you need from them. Tell them, you know what? I've got this Dr. Sarah coming in, and I'm really excited. I know that it's not going to be me, but it would mean the world to me if you would just stay up on your care, so when I do come back, you're not a hot mess and we don't have to rebuild you. Like, I can't be at home worrying that all of my patients are falling apart. Again, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, I can do that for you. So Jenna, if that's your real name, I hope you have notes. I hope that at some point in this, whether you're just listening or you're the person who wrote in, that this sparked something in you, it got you unstuck in this point, and you feel like you have confidence to make some different decisions this time around. Reminder to everyone listening, we don't have a show without you guys sending in questions. This is not about me just picking topics that I feel like talking about. Some of the topics, they make me uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to pump that one out a couple months, get a little better at this before I address it. But like, this show is all about you and giving back to that. So there's lots of different ways you can send us your questions. You can go to sheslayspodcast.com, and there's a submission form there. You can email me, Lauryn at sheslayspodcast.com. Lauryn is Lauryn. You can direct message us on Instagram, on Facebook. You can send a carrier pigeon to my home in Rice Lake. I don't care. Send a smoke signal. However I can get your question, do that. But we definitely need those questions to keep coming in. Also subscribe. Like I said, it's going to get better. So even if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to hang around, like stick around for a little while, subscribe to however you get your podcasts, and review us, especially if you're one of those people that would review us 5 stars. We want your reviews way more than the person who's on the edge. If in that review you give us a short question, we might even answer it just at the beginning of a question. Maybe it's not an entire podcast, but if it's an easy one, we'll just handle it there. But ultimately, we love you guys so much. Thanks for being a part of this, supporting this. And until next time, She Slayers.